The Wellington Orbit is a community-run cinema, cafe and art space. And now the charity behind it owns the premises. You might have heard earlier from the cinema's financial director, Ray Hughes, a little earlier on in the show today.
I've been doing projections, and at the moment, with the rent saved we got, we're fairly close to actually breaking even, just on running the cinema and the cafe. Together with certain other funds we're going to inject ourselves. But once we actually get money to do phase 2, we're projecting that we could be making about £40,000 a year profit, and we wouldn't really require that for reserves. In the long term, we'd be looking to apply £40,000 for the wider artistic benefit within the community.
I popped over to the Orbit in Wellington yesterday and spoke to Sarah Chard. Now, she's the office manager at the Wellington Orbit, and who wouldn't go down there when they've got cafe and cake?
Obviously, the cost savings that Ray's mentioned are big for us, but it just means now that we can concentrate on getting the cafe and cinema being as productive and financially stable as possible, and then get work done upstairs.
So upstairs, for people that don't know, it's a multi-floored building. I seem to remember going downstairs into a basement and seeing gas lamps in the wall and everything. It's been here a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been here since 1901. We've got a basement which does suffer from damp, so people might not see that in the near future, but we've got 2 floors above the cinema that we hope to renovate 4 rooms for the community to use.
And what sort of purpose are you aiming that at, or what sort of need have you identified in Wellington for maybe that second floor?
We want to do what the community wants. We have somebody at the moment doing some research work for us to find out what the community are looking for, and it's anything from stamp collecting meeting to dance classes to artists wanting studio space. Lots of different things, so they need to be as multifunctional as possible is what we want, so anybody can come in and rent a room for us and we will find space for them for what they want to do.
And logistically, how does that work with the existing opening hours and access and things like that? Because presumably some of these activities are evening based. Is the cinema open in the evening, or is that going to cause a little bit of logistical planning?
No, we're open 10 a.m. to 10 p.m, so there will always be a member of staff on site for access to allow people in and out, so we can do evening classes as well as weekends.
And while we're here, it's worth mentioning sort of Fiona Hunter, who effectively was initially involved in the Save the Clifton campaign, but then was one of the forerunners in the movement of that group that cared about the history of the cinema down the road. And when it wasn't to be, it wasn't just a case of throwing the towel in, she was fundamental in making this happen, wasn't she? She was.
Fiona was a force of nature. Unfortunately, we lost her in December. But in her honour, we will be dedicating the dance studio to her, because that's what she was so passionate about, that's what she wanted, and her family have kindly given us an oil painting which will have pride of place in the dance studio when it opens.
And I'm sure her name will be acknowledged in some way around that part of the project.
It will be, yes, definitely.
And of course she was such a driving force as well in terms of getting people, recruiting people and invigorating the local community in driving what effectively we sit in now.
Absolutely, we would not be here if it wasn't for Fiona Hunter. Fiona wants something, she made sure it happened. It's you did not say no to Fiona.
And I suppose it's lovely as well that she got to see the cinema and the ground that had been made by what was initially £1 stake investments from local people, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. She enjoyed coming in for her black Americano on a Saturday morning and making sure that we were running the place as she wanted. So yeah, she'll be greatly missed, but hopefully we will do her proud.
Fantastic. When you look at long-term planning as well, is the scope, how does that sort of work forward now that the long-term security of the venue has been established? This now means that there's more than 3 or 4 or 5 or even 10 years where you can really look long term in terms of what you're going to do. How far ahead can you plan? Because the world is an ever-changing place, isn't it?
Absolutely. The orbit will never be finished. It will evolve as people in Wellington need different things. So we're talking to people now and finding out what they need. In 10 years' time, it could be a very different thing. It's the working from home, and people want meeting rooms and things now. We don't know how that's going to change in the next 10 years. Who'd have known 4 years ago that so many people would be working from home? So, we will evolve with the times forever, so it will never be finished.
And I wanted to know how things have been for them recently.
We've put on some fabulous live events, and the films have been extremely well supported. We're getting a lot of people coming out and seeing the films. We've got some great ones coming up. Puss in Boots at half term. Anybody wants to book tickets? £20 for a family of 4, which is excellent value.
And it's interesting now as well when you look at actually some of those multiplex cinemas, which were the downfall of the Clifton down the road, are actually seeing a downturn in business with the way things are at with people streaming films from home. And who'd have thought this small independent would actually be making a lot of ground in terms of that cinematic experience?
Yeah, we're definitely bucking the national trend for the big cinemas. We are going way above them in attendance per seat for the size of the cinema. We're definitely doing better than the nationals are, and it's a family. It's the Orbit family. People come in and they know that they're welcomed with a smile. They can come in and watch the film on their own. There'll always be somebody here for them to talk to. We always see them into the film and we see them out of the film to check they've had a nice time and they enjoyed the film, and we take the feedback.
I'm going to ask you now something I've always wondered about cinemas. How do you select the films? Do you have catalogues of what's available from suppliers, or do you decide what you want to see and go and find out how much it costs? Which comes first?
We have a booker who recommends films for us based on, she knows what attendance we have for previous films, so she tells us what she thinks would work, and then it's down to the management team here to have a look and decide how long we want to run things for. Sometimes we have to show a film solidly for 2 weeks, right, if it's a new film, but other times we can just slot them in here and there and we show what we think our customers would like to see.
And how does it work? Do you pay a certain amount, or how does that work in terms of...
We pay a commission, so it's a commission per seat sold. And the newer the film, the higher that is. That's why we tend not to show films on release, because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we do find that the people who come to the Orbit are quite happy to wait a couple of weeks to see it here, rather than go to the multiplex to see it on the day it's released.
And I suppose to a degree as well, it does enable you to show classics and to have themed events, or to do narrative things where you've got directors or people involved with films to make it more of an experience.
Yeah, experiential events are really good for people to come in and get the feel of the theatre again. People who haven't come to the cinema for a long time can come in and talk to somebody and find out how the films are made, why they're made, the thoughts of the producer, the tribulations they've had making the film and that sort of thing. So people do enjoy if we can add something onto the film to make it a bit more special.
And I suppose with the classics as well, you are kind of interested in how they came about, or what scenes didn't make it in, or what scenes nearly didn't make it in, or the story behind the making of the film.
Yeah, that's always, people are always interested in things that aren't generally known. So if we can get somebody in to talk about a film or give us an insight, it's always good.
Now, some people think you're a hidden gem, so here's an opportunity to shout from the rafters what the Orbit is, what it has to offer, and how people can find out about your films. Off you go.
Wellington Orbit, look for us online. We are a cinema and a cafe and 63 seats cinema, showing the films as soon as we can, but we also show some quirky ones and some different ones, and sign up for our mailing list and you'll know what's coming.
Sarah Chard at the Orbit Cinema in Wellington, and we're asking you